Awesome. Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, we are back once again with the Sick Podcast, Talking Titans. We got a live show. I got to turn my lights on. I rushed in here today, obviously. We got a live show today. We're going through our picks, all of them. We're going to go through some grades that some of the more knowledgeable people in the business had given us. I can tell you right now, I'm probably not going to love a lot of them. But it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, we're going to get through each player and we're going to find a way to be happy with what we did here this past weekend. So without further ado, Shane, start me up.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Talking Titans.
Ladies and gentlemen, 94 yards. Touchdown, Titans. He is the baddest man in the NFL, and he just took her to the house.
The sickest Tennessee Titans podcast.
Sick!
It's gonna be sick.
Got the throwback intro there. Love it. Brought back some bad memories. Not bad memories, but, memories that you're trying to forget for a little bit. But nevertheless, again, everyone, welcome back to another edition of Sick Podcast Talking Titans. I'm with my man Jarett. Vinny's taking the day off. He's got.
Vinny's going to be off for a little bit, man. Yeah, he's going to be in.
He's going to be off for a little bit. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's got his honeymoon coming up, so he's going to Italy. So he's not going to be here for 2 weeks.
No, listen, I'll tell you what. A guy who busts my balls about my race so much, he's definitely the one doing a lot more traveling than me. So God bless him. Like I said, we're gonna, like Jarett said, we're gonna get him on soon to share his thoughts for the remaining picks. But let's jump right into it, Jarett. We've got how many in total? I believe 5 or 6. How many players total did we get in this draft? I think it was 6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
7, even better. We have 7 individuals to go over. Our newest members of the Tennessee Titans. I think it's just best to start off, obviously, with our first round pick, and we'll work our way down. So, as everyone knows, J.C. Latham, we spoke about him in depth after the draft, first round, about what we thought. But we'll do a brief, recap again as we work our way into the later picks in this draft. I said right off the jump, and I'm sure you'll echo it, Jarett, this is a pick where you have to trust the guys in the building. Obviously, we have a guy in Bill Callahan that's as good as it gets at his position, or that at the position that he coaches. He said this was his guy, his favorite guy in the draft. Is that the sole reason why we took him? It's anyone's guess, but at the end of the day, he is our guy. He is our left tackle. I remember sitting next to you, and you kind of said, maybe it's going to be Latham. Didn't seem too enthusiastic about it. Obviously, afterwards, we figured it all out. But where you sit today on this guy, J.C. Latham, as opposed to where you were Thursday night?
First, where we were Thursday night. First, I just want to thank you again for coming over Thursday.
Thank you for having me.
Definitely got to do that a lot more often, especially with Vinny. Live streams are the best, especially when all three of us are together. So that was awesome. But where I stand now with Latham, I mean, you see our reaction on there. It was kind of blah. People were saying, you're at a funeral, fellas. Like, what's going on? I mean, obviously, we wanted all. But when you think about it, Daniel Jeremiah had J.C. Latham as one of his top, if not the top tackle in the draft. Brian Baldinger, who I talked to at the Super Bowl, he had him as his top offensive lineman. So when you think about it, as the days go by now, I kind of love the pick, especially if Bill Callahan, that was his favorite lineman out of every single lineman in this draft, and it was loaded. I'm all about it. And like I said, like you said, I trust what's going on in that building right now. Now, I wrote down a couple things for J.C. Latham, along with other people that we drafted. Obviously, big, powerful human being at 6'6", 360, great footwork and great handwork, absolute people mover. Once he's anchored, it's all over. And that came from Brian Baldinger. Once he anchors, It's all over. Once he sets himself and he has his hands on you, it's over. A lot of scouts have had as the best overall, like I said, and he played at Bama at the right tackle and moved over for Evan Neal. He was a left tackle, guys. It's not like he was never a left tackle. He wanted to just stay on the field. Evan Neal was better than him, obviously, at the time, and he just stayed at right tackle where he was comfortable. But since Alabama, he's trained to be the left tackle for the future, like for the draft. So obviously, we took him as left tackle. Rand Carthon said he's going to be a left tackle. Will Levis said it. So I'm pleased with the pick moving forward.
Isn't it ironic that the reason he played right tackle at Alabama was because Evan Neal was playing left tackle? Now Evan Neal plays right tackle for the Giants.
I know.
And from what I heard, he ain't that great at it. But I don't know. I feel like they're too invested in him to alienate him just yet. But let's hope that Latham is, a natural left tackle, and we just happen to watch him excel at right tackle at Alabama. So, and like he said in the press conference, I think in his earliest days, high school, he was drafted or he was recruited as a left tackle coming out of high school. So it's not like it's a completely unfamiliar position for him. Like I said, it could be a situation where he's just naturally great at both, and he's even better at left, and we're just going to find that out once the preseason and week 1 starts. So, again, as you're going to hear me echo a lot throughout this show, guys, it tackles, no pun intended, a position of need, and the biggest position of need. And you cannot jump to any conclusions until this guy is playing in the NFL and failing. Until that happens, knock on wood, hope it never does. You can't complain about this pick. Anyone out there who's a fan of this team cannot complain about this first pick because it was the biggest need this team had, and it addressed it. You might have had people on your board that were higher. Obviously, all of us wanted like the number 1 easiest pick in the world. He wasn't there. This was their next best guy. According to Bill, it was his first guy. And until he's fit, until he is not good at what he's doing, we cannot jump to conclusions. We cannot be upset. With that being said, let's move on to the second pick, because even though it's going to be the same exact thing for me that follows with this next pick, there are definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, there's nothing wrong with anyone in our fan base scratching their head about this pick, because there's a lot of things about this pick that don't really make sense. There are a lot of things that do make sense. That's why at the end of the day, you should go into it thinking, I'm going to save my rant until afterwards. I want to hear your initial thoughts on T'Vondre Sweat in round 2 before I say a damn thing else.
Well, I was all over Sweat. I was pounding the table since early in this draft process. I mocked him in several mock drafts. The DWI doesn't play a factor for me because he was a man. He owned up to his mistakes, and every single one of us, including me, you, and every single person watching, has made mistakes. He's owned his mistakes. Rand Carthon brought him into the building that same night. That same afternoon. Whatever, the next day, whatever it is, when he got the DUI, he owned his mistake. He went down. Rand said they flew down last week before they drafted him. Sat down with his family. He's got his head on right. He's a great kid. He's a great teammate. And I, for one, am a big Sweat fan. It was an absolute need. And people could say, "Oh, he should have moved back to get him." Bullshit. I call bullshit. And if you don't agree with me either, that's fine. Because Washington moved up in the second round to draft Newton. Before that, Clemson, the Clemson defensive tackle, was drafted early by Atlanta. Then Washington moved up for Newton, and then the third one off the board was us. We had to pull the trigger because after us was Fisk, was Mason Key from LSU, and somebody else got drafted before that. So if we slid back a little bit, just like Callahan had said, our guy was gone. So
well, my dad said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
my dad said, and I tend to agree with him most of the time, that because the Atlanta trade up was after our pick, correct? To get Fisk?
No. Fisk went after us.
That's what I'm saying.
Right after us from the Rams.
Who did Atlanta trade up like 30 spots to get?
That was the Clemson defensive lineman, who was a reach, in my opinion, an absolute reach.
Well, my dad thinks that guy was the easiest pick ever for us to take, and the only reason they traded up all those spots is because they couldn't believe that there was any chance that Tennessee wasn't taking him there. Once they didn't, that's what they did. Now, nobody knows. Only God knows. Maybe that information will come out later. But let me get my 2 cents again on Sweat.
Wait, before you even get your 2 cents on Sweat.
I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, what are you talking about saying that you don't think that the Titans were going to draft Sweat either way in the second round?
No. I'm saying that the guy that Atlanta traded up like 30 spots for, Fisk. Because again, I'm not knowledgeable a lot of
No, Atlanta didn't go to Fisk. Fisk went to the Rams right after us.
Okay, so who was the player that Atlanta? So it's Clemson.
Some Clemson. The guy's name is this long. I don't know. I don't even know who the hell he was. And I'm a college guy. I thought it was a reach. I think he may have been the sixth best defensive tackle.
I'd have to find out, but it doesn't matter. Regardless of who traded up a bunch of spots to get somebody it doesn't matter. We took Sweat. Okay, now the reality of it is this. You could say whatever you want about what the value was there. everyone and their mother had him in the low 90s and further back on their board. Pretty much everyone you could ask that had a big board and rankings for this year's draft had him 30 plus spots farther down than where we took him. Now, again, is there a way that Rand Carthon got some information where he might have planned to trade back, but he found out that there was a team that had their eyes on him, and that just fell through because they wanted Sweat, and they needed to get Sweat. And I don't know. There was another team that had him higher on the board that would have taken him if they traded back. I mean, I don't love the character. I don't love it. Like I said, forget about the DUI. I could give a fuck about the DUI. Like, you could get a million DUIs as long as, well, not a million DUIs. That's horrible. But the personality shit, as far as off the field, I don't care. I just didn't get a great vibe from him during the initial presser. Again, that doesn't fucking matter at all. If he does what he's supposed to do, which he's supposed to be there in the middle to block the run and to help Simmons get to the quarterback, then it's another need that we hit out of the park. Okay. Now, I'm not going to jump to any conclusion until this kid goes on the field. If I had a gun to my head, I'll tell you right now, if I had a gun to my head, somebody said, you need to give me an answer right now, whether Sweat is going to be a perennial top defensive tackle in the league, I would say no. I've watched a lot of film on him. I don't see a lot of power off the line of scrimmage. I see
you must not be looking at the same guy.
I see a guy who weighs a lot and knows how to use his hands very well and his arms. I don't see a guy that just off the line of scrimmage runs somebody over. I see that with Latham on the other side of the ball. Every fucking highlight I've seen of that guy, like, he bumps into a guy and he shoots him 40 yards to the sideline. Again, if he does what we're drafting him to do, which is create some pressure in the middle, stop the run, help Jeff, help the edge rushers, etc., it's a home run. But we'll have to see. Because if it doesn't work out, then you're going to have a right to get very upset with this management team because they took a guy way higher up than anyone else was going to take him. And it was a second-round pick that we needed to have an impact in. Especially because we didn't trade back, didn't get a third rounder. That's another thing, Jerry. You were big on trying to get a third round pick. They did not do that. That elevates this guy's stock even more. That's how highly they thought of him. 8 to 9 calls we blocked, Jarrett. 8 to 9 calls. We said no thanks and hung up. Yep. So this kid better be the real deal, because if he's not, and we passed up on multiple picks, we have no idea how many picks somebody would have given us to get. We don't know what those 8 calls were. If this kid doesn't produce and we wasted on more picks, then there's going to be a real big problem. But until that happens, I'm all on board. I'm ready to take, get whatever the fuck he said, T-Sweat coming home. Let's take it home. Pick number 3, Jarrett, floor is yours.
Pick number 2 in the second round.
Oh, you didn't even say. I'm sorry.
So let me get into the Sweat thing that I have something written down. First of all, maybe I could change your mind. He was the Outland Trophy winner this year. That is the best defensive interior lineman. Okay, and in my board, I had him as the third interior lineman. Okay, behind Newton, Murphy, and I had Sweat there. Enormous human being, 6'4", 366, space eater. Obviously, he demands the double team in the middle for Jeffrey and other people. Now Sebastian Joseph Day and other people on the outside to maybe get free. I think he's going to develop into a better pass rusher if he can lose the 10 pounds, like they already said. And to me, what Brian said and what he already said in the press conference, that he's going to get down there to play because he wants to be the Hall of Fame guy. He's fast for a big guy. He ran a 5'2" at 360 pounds. 5'2" at that weight is absolutely insane.
It is, but I didn't see him. I just didn't see him running anyone down on his film. I saw him.
He had a 92 run grade last year, first among defensive tackles, overall grade at a 90.5, 85.3 pass rush grade. In 503 snaps, he had 31 pressures, 26 run stops. For me, that screams Vita Vea. Dexter Lawrence type kind of player for me. Okay, I think it's going to be an absolute steal. Everyone's saying it. We have Tyler coming on Tuesday, who absolutely got torched on Twitter, and you can agree with Tyler on the pick. And I'm going to come at Tyler because I'm going to defend the sweat deal. I think this is an enormous get for us because, like I said, and like you said before, the defensive line needed help, and I think they got it with this pick because from there, I'm a Brandon Fisk guy. I think Brandon Fisk is fast. He's physical, but he's not as fast as physical as this. If you throw on that Senior Bowl tape with Sweat, he was bullying people, pushing 2 people back. I mean, a complete space eater. So hopefully him and Jeff are going to be a very fun duo to watch for us this year.
I definitely was not as up in arms as a lot of people were. And, obviously we're going to have him on the show. So, yeah, Tyler Rowland, friend of ours, friend of the show. We're going to have him on so he can, shed some more light on his disappointment.
Get his hot take.
Yeah, again. I was not. I mean, he made it seem like we just drafted Isaiah Wilson again. Like, literally picked him again. Same guy. Not like a clone of the guy. Like, actually, Titans pick Isaiah Wilson in the second round. I mean, I wouldn't go that far. Listen, like I said, if he does what we're drafting to do, again, I said for a while now, and you'll test it with Jarrett, after O-line, I thought defensive tackle was our second biggest need. And we attacked it with a guy who's somehow even larger than Latham. And like I said, I like the way he used his arms and hands in the tape that I saw. I would have liked to see more explosion off the line of scrimmage. You said you saw it. I didn't see it, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day. If he produces, that's all that matters. I could give a damn about the fucking DUIs. We've been saying for years, stop giving a shit about the kind of person and what they do. If they produce on the turf, doesn't matter what they do. Doesn't matter what they do.
I understand the whole fact that nobody want, you're bringing that environment into the locker room. You want a locker room guy, but if you watch his press conferences, any press conference, he's so joyful. He makes jokes. He seems like a great locker room guy. The kid screwed up one time. I mean, he's still young. I mean, he had a DUI. We're not vouching for, drinking and driving. Absolutely not. But if he came in and said like, yo, it wasn't me. I had 3 drinks. It was I didn't mean to do it. He came in and said he genuinely screwed up 3 weeks before the draft, and if he owned his mistake and he said he's never going to do it again, and they flew out to Texas to actually talk to him and sit with his family a week before, that was their pick no matter what in the second round. Yeah, they were going after him.
You got to hope that it's almost a clone situation of Jeff Simmons. Obviously, his situation was a little bit worse, the unfortunate troubles that he was getting involved in before the draft. But I think they took a personal visit with him, too. And I think that's what swung them. That's what swung them. And that was another thing I wanted to bring up. And I'm glad you reminded me with the mention of Jeff. Like, this guy's going to be another coach for him. Like, he really is. He called Rand Carthon immediately after a pick, thanked him, said, you know what, I appreciate you. This guy's going to be heavily invested in this man. I really do. Because, frankly, a guy that size, if you're Jeff Simmons, you're saying to yourself, if I can get this kid to be an average defensive tackle in the league with his size, I mean, I'm going to be like taking candy from a baby. Like, you're going to have to figure something out because both of us are pretty large. And, one of us is pretty damn good at getting the quarterback. The other one, we'll have to see. But I'm very excited for the potential of these two. You just got to hope and pray that his head is in there and he's a workhorse because that's what really sold me on Latham too, especially the visit he took yesterday. He just seems like a professional already, and that's what you want to see. So that's why I'm feeling so much better. I know some people in the chat said as well. I'm feeling a lot better about the Latham pick than I did on your couch. So with that being said, that's excellent news. But why don't we move on to pick number 3, Jarrett? You can start us off on your reaction and thoughts on the third or fourth round pick. I'm sorry that we have this draft.
4th round pick, Cedric Gray, one of the best coverage linebackers in the draft. I thought it was a steal. 85.5 grade since 2002. Immediately when I thought he's a Mike linebacker, green dot kind of guy, tremendous leader. I've seen some interviews with him, and people are vouching for him that he is a great leader of the defense. Per Dan Burglar, Gray was the only Power 5 linebacker to average double-digit tackles per game in 2022 and 23. So out of all the Power 5 linebackers, he was the only one to average double-digit. That's pretty damn good, man.
That's very good.
90 run stops since 2000, first among Power 5 linebackers. He's always to the ball, sideline to sideline kind of guy. With Frank Bush, in my opinion, I think he's going to develop him into a hell of a linebacker next to Kenneth Murray, who Kenneth Murray kind of feels like he is like a loose cannon who can read and he can fire. So if Cedric Gray can come in, step right in, and be that green dot to manage the field, I think it's a great pick. I mean, everybody had him as, a lot higher. I mean, if he slid to the 4th round, and Ryan even said it in his press conference that, he wanted to move up because he felt like linebackers were going, and Brian and AR, they all said just let the board fall to us, and he fell to us. So thank God we didn't move up to get him. But other career stats for him at North Carolina: 369 tackles, 30 for loss, 8.5 sacks, 18 pass defenses, and 5 interceptions. The kid's a bowler, man. I mean, if he could turn into what we needed next to Murray, and we've been talking about linebacker as one of our biggest issues so far by not addressing it. We knew we were getting some sort of linebacker in the draft. If he could be the guy for us, I think it's a great addition. Day one starter.
It's a position of need, right?
Yep.
I think we all were a little. Now, again, I will say this, and I'll bring this up to Tyler when he comes on. The one thing that he did say, obviously he was a little bit more anal about it than I probably would have been, but the one thing that he did say, which we can make an argument about, is that, Rand and Brian said a lot about, their importance of players that can get the ball in the end zone. And although from a distance we can say it looks like our offense is pretty much set, at least for skill positions.
Almost.
We really didn't invest too much in that area of the game with this draft. So, I'm just saying that for the reason being, like, these defensive players, they better be productive.
Oh, absolutely.
Cedric Gray better be a starter. He better play. I don't care if it's round 4. Again, we missed out on numerous opportunities to get additional pick in the 3rd round for a Sweat. So, this guy better be he better be an impactful player. After that, 5 and on, listen, it's a win. If we get anything out of these players, that's a win. But round 4, when you had an opportunity to get a 3rd round pick and you passed on it, round 4, you better get an impactful player. So, you would obviously know more about Cedric Gray than I do, not being as heavily invested in college football as you are, but it was a position of need, and it's a room that needs help. And I think TD mentioned that if this guy makes the team, he could be a candidate to possibly relay the plays to the players, because I think he did that at North Carolina. So that's good as well. But we'll see how things shape up. Let's move on to round 5. We have a DB from Louisville. What do you think there, Jarrett?
They did a lot of research on him. I know they brought him in for a top 30 visit. Jarvis Brownley Jr., just another tall, lanky cornerback, nasty in-your-face cornerback who reminds me, if you watch his tape, of Snead. Just a style of play. I'm not talking about coverage ability. Style of play, in-your-face, press, nasty corner. And it seems to me that Denard Wilson loves those type of guys. And I mocked him a couple times on our draft too, for the Sick Pot Talking Titans draft. So, I mean, I kind of liked him. I seen him against Florida State. He was up against Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman. So I know a little bit about him. Just a nasty, hopefully plug and play little maybe cornerback 4 for us, maybe. Who knows?
Listen, he's going to be in a room
better than Farley.
Yeah, he's going to be in a room where he should be able to, get some help.
Yep.
Another situation where he's got elite talent in the same room, in the defensive room for DBs, and he's going to sink or swim. That's it. I mean, it's another position that we needed some depth at. Maybe not as much as wide receiver, in my humble opinion, but regardless, we took a corner in round 5. He's got Snead, Awuzie, McCreary in there. And, another position you cannot have enough depth at is defensive back. So we'll see how that shapes up. But like I said, after round 4, you hope for the best for these guys. If you trust the staff, then some of these players should be impactful. So let's move on to our round 6th pick, a wide receiver from Tulane, Jha'Quan Jackson. My dad thinks this guy's going to make the team. What do you think, Jarrett?
I think he's going to make the team, but just to go back on the 5th round pick, Brownlee Jr. I think Johnny Wilson out of Florida State. Everyone's going to say I'm a homer because I'm a Florida State fan. At 6'7", if he was still on the board and we could have got another cornerback and flip-flopped these picks and went wide receiver cornerback, I think Johnny Wilson would have definitely demanded a different style of play for our offense. Man, 6'7", Jordan Travis used to throw him the ball. and just throw it up because he was just so tall compared to everybody else. So if we'd have moved him inside to maybe tight end or something, I think that would have been a smart play move for us. But I'm okay with the Brownlee Jr. As far as Jha'Quan Jackson, it's Tajay's boy apparently. I think Rand did Tajay a favor. Fast slot wide receiver, dynamic returner. I see him personally making the rosters as well. I think he's going to come into like small packages just to blow by everybody. He had 1,700 yards and 17 touchdowns at his career at Tulane, but he's primarily a return guy. I think that's why they got him. And I mocked like Will Shipley to us late in the rounds. I didn't even mock Jha'Quan Jackson over here. But with the new kickoff rules, I think this kid could play a crucial part in what we've needed Kyle Phillips and all these other guys to do for a while. So hopefully he makes a dynamic presence for our return game.
Yeah, and that's another thing I wanted to bring up on the show again. I thank you for reminding me. A lot of people are completely forgetting about Kyle Phillips. Now, for good reason, right? I mean, 2 years, flashes here and there, but cannot stay healthy to save his freaking life. But we don't really know what their plans are for him. And frankly, if he can stay healthy, listen, Kyle Phillips, he was a main reason we came back in that Miami game. Now, mind you, in hindsight, if we didn't come back in that Miami game, we probably have Malik Neighbors on the team. But I digress. Because then, that's just so inappropriate for me to even bring up. Besides the point. Kyle Phillips can catch, man. He's a legit his talent level is good enough to be a legit slot guy in the NFL. He just can't stay healthy. So if they plan on him being healthy, playing, staying on the field, then,
earn your spot, bro.
It makes more sense why maybe they didn't think they needed to take a swing on a receiver. And then, again, the wild card from Treylon Burks, who's just so unfortunate that the guy that we've seen be really freaking productive. We've seen the talent level. We've seen him moss guys on Sundays, but really, he either gets decked in the freaking skull or he trips and he falls and he gets hurt. And it's just like, how much more time can we give this guy? But we'll see. We'll see. The wide receiver depth could be excellent or it could be horrendous. Kind of like the way we talked about the defensive backs last year. They're either going to be really good or real shit. Now they should be a lot more comfortable and we shouldn't have to worry too much about the secondary. But we'll see. We'll see how this kid shapes up. If he's a good returner, we've been waiting for a legit solid returner for I don't even know how long. Like really, we just haven't had a consistent guy who can get production on every Sunday, whether it be punting or kick return. So if this is the guy, then great. Special teamser can throw him in there if they need to at receiver. Depth. Can't say it enough. So moving on to our round, 7 we're on now, I believe.
2 7th-round picks, yep.
2 7th-round picks. First off is going to be a safety from Miami, James Williams. What do you think, Jarrett?
Jamal Williams, safety. Obviously, they wanted size in this draft, and they got it. 6'5", 215, big hitter. Had a 91 cover grade as a safety at Miami. That's, again, first among Power 5 safeties. But they kind of announced him as a linebacker. So I don't know what their plan is to me. I mean, obviously the guy's got size, can play football, huge tackler. So maybe they got special packages that Denard Wilson is bringing out there with more DBs. Who knows? Could be a special teams kind of guy, to get like Trey Avery out there, Eric Garger, whatever the hell his name is. If he could take his spot, I would take this guy at 6'5", 215 in a heartbeat. But what can you say about a 7th-round draft pick besides all that stuff? Yeah. Kid's got some talent. Obviously, out of Power 5 safeties, Power 5 guys, out of all the Power 5 conferences, he graded at a 91 cover grade. So the kid can cover. He's got 6'5", long frame. I take it. I'm happy with the pick.
Yeah, I mean, if you got a guy that has a body frame that you could confuse with either a safety or a linebacker, that's a good problem to have.
Cover tight ends or something.
Yeah, and listen, we have a knack of just finding some random 7th-round pick, 6th-round pick that winds up being an 8-year starter that we remember forever. So maybe this will be the guy. You never know. I mean, again, we need help in both positions, safety and linebacker. So if he could be productive at either, I think we'd be okay with that in the 7th round. So we'll see how Jimmy Williams does moving forward out of the U. Moving on, we have an edge rusher from the Michigan Wolverines. We have this guy. So this guy just came off being a national champion And what do you think about Jaylen Harrell? I think my dad said he believes this guy's making the team too.
I think he is too, and that's going to be almost the whole draft classes, both draft classes that they're going to make the team.
We all say that every year.
I pulled all these stats from our friend Mike Herndon. So this guy led the national championship Michigan defense last year with 31 pressures, 10 tackles for a loss, and 7.5 sacks on a national championship defense. If this guy falls to the 7th round and he leads all that stuff, pure depth guy, and if he can make the team, I'm happy with it.
Let me ask you a question. I don't know why did he drop to the almost damn near undrafted?
I have no idea. Didn't know really much about him. I remember Junior Colson or whatever the hell his guy's name is. He went in the 3rd or 2nd round. I know he was the bigger guy at linebacker. Maybe this guy was a role player, but I just read you the stats from Mike Herndon. I mean,
pretty fucking good.
Led the whole Michigan defense in all those categories. I'm taking a shot at him in the 7th round. Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, again, I can't stress this enough. I said this earlier. Obviously, you can attest to it. If I'm in the room, if I'm a guy that's involved with scouting, picking players, I'm sure some people are probably rolling their eyes like, God forbid. But if I was,
please,
I really would value probably more than most people, like the organizations these players come from. You know what I mean? Yeah. Obviously, teams like Alabama, they're by accident, not by accident, but they just spit out elite athletic talent, like at every position. But it means a lot to me getting guys that come from teams that have won championships, because a lot of times you get that taste of a championship and you're going to want it always in any league that you play in. And I think I'd value that a lot. And any player that's on a national championship team that has a lot of playing time, I'm all for it in the 7th round. It's low risk, endless reward potential. So we'll see how that all checks out. But at the end of the day, I mean, we went one offensive skill position in the entire draft, in a draft where, people were thinking, oh, we might go wide receiver this round. We might go tight end that round. And Well, we got one wide receiver, and it was in the 6th round with a coin flip. At the end of the day, it's a coin flip, guys.
Absolutely.
The 6th round is going to make the fucking team. You can watch all the highlights you want. What do you think their plan is moving forward? Do you think they're set at the wide receiver position? Do you think we could potentially see maybe a flyer on Tyler Boyd, OBJ, etc.? I mean, you got to think that.
I'm glad you brought that up. We got $40 million to spend. Hit on safety is still open out there because there's a lot of safeties out there. And I believe that they are going to go after now. After the draft is over, they played their hand with that. The next couple waves, I think they're going wide receiver and Tyler Boyd. They're going to sign. And I think they're going to go after a mid-tier safety. Maybe even if they want to go all in on Justin Simmons on a 2-year deal for like $22 million or $23 million, I'm not opposed to it. But that's the plan I think they have in place. I think they're going to try to get another wide receiver in there with the likes of Tyler Boyd. Not OBJ. I'm kind of out on him. And that's my personal opinion. I don't know how you feel about it. But I would go after Tyler Boyd, especially him knowing the whole system with
Well, first of all, Tyler Boyd's 29. So right off the bat, like it's just better. I think OBJ's 32 now or something like that. But I mean, Tyler Boyd is one of the more underrated receivers in the league. You look at his stats, he's 700 plus yards, like in his sleep. I think he had 3,000 or 4,000 yard seasons. I'm assuming he's going to be very coveted over the next couple days. Of course, listen, it could be every draft class has the potential to be really special. I think it's safe to say last year's draft, the way it's shaping out now, it could really be special between Levis, Skoronski, and Spears. We do have some undrafted free agents we took. Actually, a fair number of them. I'm going through them right now, and we're not going to spend 10 minutes with each guy. But we'll
before you do that, Sal, give me your grade on the draft before we get into the undrafted free agents.
See, over the years, and not over the years, but at least recently, I figured it's really silly to do grades on what what I thought the picks were. So my grade is going to be based off of tackling, positions of need, tackling positions of need. It's an A-. Okay. Tackling positions of need is an A-, right? Offensive tackle, defensive tackle. In my opinion, that was 1 and 2 as far as the most important things to complete this team. You also got a safety, which I think they needed. They also got a linebacker, which maybe also can play safety. They also got another corner. They also got a wide receiver. A lot of these guys are, coin flips because they're low 7th rounders. Some of them probably, they didn't even think they might get drafted potentially. So you never know. But the way they attacked the draft, position-wise, all 7 players were positions of need. They didn't take a running back, which I think, would have been ridiculously dumb to do in the draft. Afterwards, they got some kid from Tennessee, which everyone says might get some time. We'll see. We'll get to that in a minute. They didn't take what other position would have been ridiculous to take? You guys know. I think attacking needs, it was an A-. What do you think, Jarett?
I think the stars are aligning for a great season because me and you don't agree on a lot of things sometimes, which is good for this podcast. I totally agree with you now.
There you go.
This is an A- for me. Tackling needs, of course. I go A-. CBS Sports has us at a C+. NFL Network agrees with me and you with the A-. ESPN, who I absolutely hate, has us at a C+. PFF B-. Totally agree with you on the team needs. I just saw team leader post something with Cole Spencer. Shane, can you bring that up again? That comment? Yes, Cole Spencer. I saw this last night, and I looked into this kid out of Texas Tech. He sat with Bill Callahan, I think, for like 2 hours when they met with him, and supposedly Callahan loves him. Another guy plays guard. A crucial depth piece. I can't even speak right now. I'm not even drinking. So I think it's a crucial depth piece if we're trying to build this offensive line going forward around Will Levis, to trying to get the other guys out of there, the Mike Rabel guys out of there. So yes, I totally agree with your team leader on that. And when you said running back, and you're going to go down the list right now, but before you go down that list, Dylan Johnson out of Washington. We picked him up, too, as an undrafted free agent. He had 1,200 yards and 16 touchdowns. I mocked him a couple of times for us in the 5th or even 6th round. He got hurt last year in the Oregon game prior to the national championship and dogged it out and to play in the national championship with a damn near half a broken leg. So, I love that. If he can make the team, it's going to be an absolute – besides Derrick Henry, if you think about this, Pollard, Spears, and Johnson, that could be the best running back room we've ever had, minus Derrick Henry, alone. Those 3 alone, if you can get the 3 of them in packages, I'm excited. When I saw that was our first signing, I said, oh, hell yeah. I was all over that.
Yeah, so I'm going to go through all of them as I see them. And then, we mentioned Cole Spencer. Apparently, he's a guy that has a lot of potential. He looks enormous in this photo.
Yeah.
In this photo they put up of him. But I'm going to go through the names, and then we can dive deeper into it. So we got an offensive lineman, Brian Dooley, out of Eastern Michigan. Tight end, David Martin Robinson, out of Temple. Looks very tall. That's cool. Running back, Jabari Smith from the Volunteer State Tennessee Vols. I'm sure a lot of people are happy about that. As we mentioned already, Cole Spencer out of Texas Tech. A defensive end from Kansas State, Khalid Duke. That's a solid name. Safety, Keaton Ellis out of Penn State. I think somebody mentioned him, that he might make the team as well. A kicker out of NC State, Braden Narvison. That sounds like a kicker if I've ever heard one. Lord knows the future of kicking in Tennessee could look a little brighter than it does now. We did get, what's his name, back, though, didn't we? Gostkowski?
Yep. No, not Gostkowski. What the hell are you talking about? That's a couple years ago. Nick Folk. Yeah.
Yeesh. Another tight end out of Tennessee, Gabe Judy Lally. That's a cool name. Offensive lineman from Liberty, probably a friend of Malik.
Supposedly, if you look at his tape, I've seen a couple of videos of him. Enormous man. He's a captain over there too. So another one. If he can make the team practice squad with Cole Spencer,
how the hell do you say his name? Do you know how to say his first name?
Don't even attempt it. I just know he's the guard from Liberty.
Well, I'm going to attempt it. It's Xavier Gadlin. Xavier. Sounds French, but I don't think it is. Defensive tackle, Isaiah Itten out of Rutgers. Little New Brunswick in the building. This guy looks shredded.
Rutgers.
This guy does not look like a defensive tackle. He looks like a linebacker, but we'll have to see. That's pretty sick. How many fucking tight ends did we get? Another tight end at Iowa. Steven of Paisan, too. Steven Stylianos. Okay.
They perform. If he's an Iowa tight end, I'm all about it, man. There's so many Iowa tight ends in the NFL. Listen.
who knows? We'll see. We got a Paisan in the building. Cornerback Rod Gaddison out of Western Carolina. Cornerback Robert Javier out of Townsend.
Just before you go to somewhere else, I have something pulled up on the Townsend kid. He allowed 38 receiving yard rate and a 27 passer rating allowed in coverage last year. So another guy who can play football apparently and cover. Bring him in, see what he's got.
Somehow I'm going to fall in love with all these fucking undrafted free agents somehow. And last but not least, a running back out of Washington, Dylan Johnson.
Yes, sir.
We'll see. Was that the guy you mentioned?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I don't know. Listen, hopefully one of these fucking tight ends will figure something out because that is a position that honestly, the more I thought about it, I got to be honest, not a lot to write home about at the moment. We got Chig, and we would assume with this new coaching staff, much more pass happy, 2024 style offense, we would see him maybe take another step in year 3. But after that, I mean, I have a little bit of hope in Josh Wiley in year 2. But I don't know.
Better now.
Tight end.
Better now.
Well, yeah, if one of these guys makes a team, we'll have to see. But listen, a lot of good positions in these, in these undrafted free agents. A lot of solid positions that you can't get too much depth at. You can't get too many people in the room to potentially fight for a spot. So can't be upset about any of the people they took in the undrafted section of this process. And I stand on what I say as far as attacking positions of need. It gets an A-. Now, don't get it twisted here, everyone watching. They have to perform. They have to perform.
Yeah,
again, I'm still trying to figure out the reason why they took Sweat at that number, unless they really thought there was another team that if they traded back like 15 spots, even though he was projected to go, 40 spots lower, maybe that's the reason why they did it.
Those projections don't mean shit to me. I think he was the best defensive lineman. I think he was the best defensive lineman. And put on all the tape. Everybody listen and put on all the tape besides Newton. All those guys. Sweat is a difference maker. And we're going to talk about it on Tuesday. And I think it's going to get – yeah, I think he's the difference maker. And that run came early, man. Atlanta started that run. Then it went Washington, and Rand said, we're not moving out of this pick because and Callahan said in the press conference, I said it before, they were not willing to move back 5, 10, 15 spots to lose that guy. All those guys got picked afterwards. Key, Mason, Fisk, they all went right after. And Sweat would have went there too.
Hey, you never know. Only God knows. And like I said to start the show, he is the perfect build and size of what we need in the trenches there in the middle, right? We got an absolute animal in Jeffrey Simmons that did pretty damn well with Danico Autry at his side. Mm-hmm. And if this guy can be better than Danico Autry, which he's a lot younger, he's a lot bigger, should be a lot stronger, you could see Jeffrey Simmons being all pro this year, which he deservingly should have the opportunity to try to grab, because if he's got to do everything on his own, he's never going to be able to get the accolades that he'll need to get those rewards. So he deserves it. He's as dedicated to this team and this city as anyone can be. And Tavondre should be someone who takes a lot of pressure off from him. Even if he trips. If he trips after the snap,
the man's a double, man.
He should be knocking 2 people over like bowling pins. So there's a lot to be excited about. Will Levis's blind side potentially could be very protected. We might have a really good returner. We might have gotten some depth at corner. There's a lot of things to be happy about. I know we all want the flashy pick. We didn't take anyone in the draft except one guy in the late rounds that might be able to get in the end zone with a football. We've been waiting for stuff like that to happen in this draft for a while, and that hasn't really happened yet since A.J. Brown, a star that gets the ball in the end zone through the air. We haven't really landed one since A.J. So we'll have to wait along that. Thankfully, we got Ridley and we got D-Hop, and 2024 is set to pass catching position. I honestly think that, and who knows, we had Tyler Boyd, forget about it, but A- is my grade for attacking needs, and I think that's pretty much it, Jared. Is there anything you want to you want to add in? I mean, this was as fast of a 45 minutes I think we've ever had.
Man, we broke down a lot of players, broke down a whole draft, gave them a grade, and the undrafted free agents. So, I mean, we tackled a lot today. I guess I'm going to argue with Tyler on the sweat thing on Tuesday. You guys can tend to agree with each other. But really quick, I know he's not going to be listening right now. But I just want to give a shout out to Greg Anderson. I coached the kid back in high school a couple of years ago. He's out of Monmouth. He was an undrafted free agent. He just signed with the New York Jets. That's awesome. Best of luck to you, Mr. Anderson. Always rooted for you, and I hope you make the team, practice squad, and continue your journey in the NFL. So
that's awesome. Congratulations. And be able to possibly stay home is pretty sick too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
In general area, of course. Was he a Jet fan growing up or Giant fan? Do you know?
No, he was a Giant fan.
He was?
Listen, yeah, so, I mean, either way, you're getting paid in the NFL.
Well, his team and the money he might be making is going to be green, so he'll survive. Yep. But that's awesome, man. Wish him the best in his process. And, that's going to wrap it up for today, guys. Everyone that joined in, as always, can't thank you enough. Make sure if you're not already, going to YouTube or iTunes or Apple Podcasts,
Spotify, everything, Twitter, YouTube, we're everywhere.
Make sure you're subscribed at all platforms. The more support we have from you guys, the more reputation we can build and continue to get excellent guests, which we've strived to do as often as we possibly can. So hope everyone has a phenomenal rest of their day and week. We should be back on when are we going to be back on, Jarrett?
Tuesday. We'll be back
Tuesday. Yep. Tuesday. We're going to be back with Tyler, Tic Tac Titans. I'm sure a lot of you have some questions for him if you haven't smacked them in his face already over the past 48 hours. But appreciate everyone joining. Love you guys all like family, and we will see you on the flip. So, as always, tighten up. And, Shane, you can send us out.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Talking Titans on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.